Thank you once more for tuning in to the PR Coach, your go-to platform in understanding how the media works, how you can communicate using the media, but also how you can manage media reputational crisis that you may be facing. Look at the news today. Watch the news on television, listen to radio news, read a newspaper, even if it's online. Today, now, as I speak to you, can you see something special? Can you see something different? Well, I'll tell you this much. News bulletins are shorter, newspapers are smaller. You know why? Because it's holiday season. That's what happens in holiday season. There is not enough news to report on. What you also find is that whereas on a television news story you would have a clip that would last 10, 15 seconds, sometimes they would run it for 30, 40, even 60 seconds, a full minute of a clip, because they're filling the space that they have to use for news, but they don't have enough content. You will find that a newspaper that always has 48 pages now has 24 pages, has less pages. But also you find that stories that would normally have occupied, page 3 are now making page 1, but also stories that would have been 600 words long are now 1,000 words long. It's because there is not enough happening. In fact, if you think about it, the one thing that mostly happens more this time would be car accidents or road accidents, which would also then lead to deaths and injuries, unfortunately, but they cover those. And sadly also crime. Crime gets on the increase, especially cash and transit heists are on the increase in this time. But even the politics is on the wane. You find that Parliament is no longer in session. You find that there is not much happening. Universities are closed, schools are closed, factories are closed, business is no longer functioning. So there is not much happening to create news. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because this is a huge opportunity in communication. A lot of times we try to communicate and we find that we're competing with huge stuff that we can never push out of the paper or out of the news bulletin on radio or on television. Stuff that we may find important, but it's difficult to justify it for those who control news to publish your stuff, to broadcast your stuff, because there is something else. There is another politician who's stolen money. There is another horrible man who's raped a woman or a child. There's a man who's beaten up somebody else. There's a robbery that just happened. Hey, there's a boss that just slept with a PA. Believe it or not. That's more fascinating from a news point of view, like it or not. But when it comes to holiday time, and that also happens with Sundays, those are days when not much is happening, and those are opportunities to communicate our stuff, especially charity stuff, or what in news is called soft stuff, not hard news. I spoke about the who, what, when, where last week. That's hard news. Sometimes you don't have hard news. Sometimes in our own organizations, whatever we do is not so hard. It's about, views that we have, or about prayers that we have for other people, or good wishes, or whatever it is. You battle a lot to get that published. It could even be something important like opening of a school. But, if there's a school that's being opened on the very same day that's a cash in transit heist of R1 million, what do you think is going to make news first? Cash in transit, without even a doubt. So you have a better opportunity to get coverage in this downtime. It is a huge opportunity. You need to be conscious of it. I always say to people, now is the best time to get your stuff out. The media are now hungry for more content. They don't have enough content. They are most likely to take and use your media statement, your communication as news, as opposed to what they would have done a month ago, 2 months ago, in the middle of June, wherever it is. Now they need more content. This is the time for your organization to pull out stuff and communicate because you are more likely to get coverage even where you thought you could not get coverage. Ultimately, they have to publish, they have to broadcast, they have to go out and say this is 7 p.m. news. Now at 7 p.m. news, there has to be a bulletin. It has to be a bulletin that ends at 7:30. And of course we factor in the adverts in between there. Something has to fill that bulletin. Now you have a choice not to give them your stuff, and therefore they will have a politician rambling on for 2 minutes when they could have done a sound bite for 30 or 20 seconds and use the other space for your story. But if you're not giving them the story, it's not going to happen. And you're not giving them the story, you know why? Because throughout the year you tried to come in, you couldn't get publicity, so you gave up. Well, I'm saying that you were competing wrongly at the time. If you came to me, at that time I would have said, actually, communicate that on a Sunday or a public holiday. The news process is very slow on those days. You have a better chance of getting in. Let me give you a practical example of what I'm talking about, real life example. Do some of you remember a guy called Professor Kara Asmal? Kara Asmal was the Minister of Water Affairs and Forestry in the first government of 1994. Now, there can't be anything unsexier than water affairs and forestry. If you are given that portfolio, you almost dead, aren't you? I mean, who cares about water affairs and forestry, especially from a mainstream media point of view, urban mainstream media point of view? But I'll have you know this. In the 5 years that Kara Asmal was minister of that portfolio, his portfolio made more news than all other portfolios put together, perhaps just outside the presidency. Yes, it's a fact. You can go check it. I'm giving you fact here. Now, how did that happen? Easy. So Kara Asmal would do what would be boring stuff, like opening up a water tap in the middle of a rural area, let's say somewhere in Kuruman. Who cares? Truly, who cares? It's the people of Kuruman who care. But for some reason, he would make the front page of, say, the Star newspaper in Johannesburg or in Gauteng, or even the Cape Times, or even the Daily News in Durban. Why? Because he would do that on a Sunday. He would open the tap on a Sunday because he knows it's a slow news day. Even if they do not publish the story, they will publish a picture. They will show a picture of this old woman opening a tap, filling up a bucket with water, smiling. You don't even see Kara Asmal there, but they've got the story in. And the story would be also how you position it. And I'll speak about this at some point, about how we position stories for them to make sense. Because we also have this mistake of wanting to talk about ourselves. Kara Asmal never spoke about himself or the department. But they would speak about this woman who for the past 40, 50 years had been walking 4 kilometers every morning to go get water, to prepare for the children to go to school and the grandchildren and all sorts of things. Now there's a new tap, which is 1 kilometer from the same house. 1 kilometer. You know how far that is? When you and I have a tap every, 5-10 meters in our homes, now this woman still has to walk 1 kilometer. But it's a tap. She's not going to a river anymore. The distance is shorter. So they're positioning an improvement in her life, but mostly this woman. And that would make news. Inevitably, you would wake up to a Monday newspaper and find a picture of this old woman with a big smile on her face, running a tap water that she's fetching the water there. More often than not, they would run the full story, but the story would be focused on this woman. The story would not be saying the department opened a tap, because who cares about the department? That's what they should do. They should open taps. That's their job. That's what we pay them to do. But Nkhono Dimakazo has just had her life changed because now she can fetch the water only 1 kilometer away from home. You can scoff at that, but it's very important because it used to be 4 kilometers, but which also means that she then can wake up slightly later than the time she used to wake up at. And there is also certainty of water, but also the fact that now the water is clean because it's tap water, it's not picked up from the river where anything could have happened. Got it? So that's what Kara Asmal and his department did. And I'll tell you why he managed to do it. It does not make Kara Asmal smart, but he hired some of the best brains in his communication team, one of whom was a former newspaper editor. So this is somebody who knew how the media works. Somebody who could say to them, this is going to work, trust me. We issue our statement on a Sunday, we invite the media to a water opening ceremony on a Sunday, or a forestry event in the middle of Mpumalanga on a Sunday. They will come because nothing is happening on that day. I know. When I was an intern journalist on the Cape Times, I used to come in on a Sunday. I used to dread coming in on Sundays. I was young. You can imagine what I used to do on a Saturday evening. In fact, my shift started at 10 a.m. 9 out of 10 times I was woken up at 10 a.m. by the church bell outside the place where I lived, and I arrived at work late. But my job on a Sunday was just to sit there and hope and wait for something to happen. It was a Sunday. It's dead. But the Monday paper has to be produced. So guess what? The police, the ambulance service or emergency services, they got a lot of coverage because they would call you and say, there's a fire. Excuse me. There's a fire somewhere and it's destroying vegetation. Boom, me, photographer out there, huge front page picture, some iffy story. I'm not really sure what to write about fire, if nobody died and whatever, but it's a story. It happened. Accidents. You know, I would cover accidents. I used to be an ambulance chaser, as they call junior reporters. But it would happen on a Sunday because it is a slow news day. It is one of the best times to communicate. So think about it next time. Unless it's urgent, hold off your story a little bit. Hold it off until you can communicate it on a Sunday or a public holiday, or in this downtime, during holiday season. You have a better chance of getting publicity than competing in other times. And one of the worst things that people do is issue statements on a Saturday. You are only targeting Sunday media when you do that. And let me get you in on a secret. Most of them are done by Thursday. They've already completed the paper by Thursday. They're waiting for sport and maybe any major political events. Or, as they used to say, if Mandela dies, may his soul rest in peace. That's a big story. The presses will stop for somebody like Nelson Mandela if he died on a Saturday. In fact, Pope John Paul II died on a Saturday. And I remember the next day, the Sunday Times had 4 pages dedicated to the Pope, because he's the Pope. Had it been me dying on a Saturday, well, that's it. Who cares? So you can't go and want to give out your statement on a Saturday. Who are you talking to? Political parties can do that because of the importance of what they are communicating, or what we have given them as this facade of importance. But they will get away with it. The president of the country can talk it any day, they'll get published the next day. In fact, I think the government, especially the presidency and the ANC, they actually target Sunday newspapers. So they have developed a culture of communicating on a Saturday that's typically targeting Sunday newspapers. But you can't do that. You are fighting a losing battle. You certainly don't want to be fighting with those people. But if you want to make news, and you know what you're communicating is not that strong, please take it from me. Sunday, public holiday or holiday season, you've got a better chance of getting publicity. Use it. It is a clever way of doing it. And pictures, pictures, pictures. Even if they cannot write the whole story, give them pictures. Everybody can take pictures now. Your mobile phone can take amazing pictures. Send them pictures with captions. You can write a 300-word caption. They'll choose to cut it. But if you give them a good picture, they will use it. And don't care that they don't credit you. What you want is your story, not credit. That's why we lose stuff. We want credit. We want our names to be mentioned. They want our government, our department to be mentioned there, our organizations to be mentioned there. You want the story to be published. That's my advice for this week. I know it's the beginning of the holiday season. I will use the downtime. I will continue to produce more content for you during this downtime. As you're sitting in your holiday homes, you're going to just click and listen to the advice I give on this platform. So I'm not stopping. It's going to continue throughout. Always be on the lookout for it. But I certainly won't compete with things that I can't compete with, like Christmas Day. People go to church. So I won't issue this video on a Christmas Day or this platform or this, broadcast on Christmas Day or New Year's Day. I'm not going to compete with those days. So if it falls on a day that I normally broadcast, I'll do it the day before or day after. But you get your notifications. I'm sure you do, don't you? So please, if you haven't subscribed, I ask you to please push this button and subscribe. Please also share this video with as many people as you can share it with, and ask them to subscribe too. I hope that we can grow with this platform. I will continue to give you as much of my knowledge as I have, and I hope it is useful for you. But most importantly, please send me questions if you have them, or comments. If there's something that is bothering you, something that you saw and you want me to help you understand it, drop me a mail, pr@kingmaker.co.za, pr@kingmaker.co.za. You obviously can also comment on the video here, and I will respond, but I prefer that you send me an email and we can have a lengthy conversation. If it's interesting enough, I will then take that conversation and put it here so that everyone else can have the advantage of what we spoke about and what I shared with you. But most importantly, please subscribe. I truly would appreciate it if you did. Thank you for watching. Happy holidays. Although I'm not going anywhere, I'll still be here with you. Be safe. Sanitize, wear your mask, and keep the social distance. It's for your own good. If not, for the next person's good. From me, thank you very much.